The book that changed everything. The scent of old books and brewing chamomile tea hung heavy in the air. A comforting blanket draped over Peter as he settled into his favorite armchair. Rain pattered softly against the windowpane, a rhythmic lullaby that only deepened the sense of calm washing over him. His small bookstore, The Wandering Pages, was his sanctuary, a place where the quiet hum of turning pages replaced the cacophony of the outside world. Peter, a man whose life revolved around the printed word, wasn't known for seeking adventure. His days were filled with sorting antique volumes, recommending forgotten classics, and nursing his ever-present cup of tea. Adventure, for him, was getting lost in the labyrinthine plot of a particularly captivating novel. That was, until a peculiar book landed on his doorstep. It arrived in a plain, unmarked box, tucked beneath the morning's delivery of new releases. The book itself was unremarkable at first glance, a small, leather-bound volume with no title or author visible on its worn cover. Curiosity piqued, Peter carefully opened it. The pages were filled with intricate illustrations, depicting fantastical landscapes and bizarre creatures. The text, however, was indecipherable, written in a language unknown to him. He spent hours poring over the book, trying to decipher its secrets, the calm of his sanctuary slowly giving way to an insistent, nagging curiosity. One evening, while attempting to match a particularly strange symbol in the book to an ancient alchemical text, he noticed something odd. As the candlelight flickered across the page, the illustrations seemed to shift to breathe. He blinked, thinking it was simply the late hour and too much chamomile. But then it happened again. The images pulsed with a faint, internal light. Suddenly, the room shimmered. The air crackled with energy, and the symbols on the open page glowed with an intense, otherworldly luminescence. The bookstore, his safe haven, began to dissolve around him. Fear warred with fascination as the familiar scent of old paper morphed into the earthy aroma of damp soil and unknown flora. When the disorientation subsided, Peter found himself standing not in his bookstore, but in a lush, vibrant jungle. Massive, luminous plants towered over him, their leaves casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. Strange, chirping sounds filled the air, a symphony of the unfamiliar. He clutched the book tightly in his hand, realizing with a jolt that it wasn't just a book, it was a portal. He was no longer just Peter, the quiet bookseller. He was Peter, the explorer thrown headfirst into a world he had only ever dreamed of. The first few days were a blur of sensory overload. The vibrant colors, the bizarre flora and fauna, the completely alien sounds, it was overwhelming. He navigated the jungle using the illustrations in the book as his guide, realizing that they were not merely drawings, but a map of sorts. He ate strange fruits, cautiously tasted wild mushrooms, and learned to identify the calls of the jungle's inhabitants, some friendly, others decidedly not. He encountered creatures that defied description: iridescent butterflies the size of his head, six-legged lizards that changed color with their mood, and furry, monkey-like creatures with luminous eyes. He narrowly avoided becoming lunch for a creature with razor-sharp teeth and a disturbing fondness for the smell of tea. Despite the dangers, a sense of exhilaration began to bloom within him. The quiet, predictable life he had always known seemed a distant memory. He was challenged, tested, and pushed beyond his comfort zone in ways he never thought possible. He discovered a resilience he never knew he possessed. One day, the map led him to a hidden valley, where a waterfall cascaded into a crystal-clear pool. Beside the pool stood a small, stone structure, covered in the same symbols as the book. As he approached, a figure emerged from the structure, an elderly woman with kind eyes and a face etched with wisdom. She greeted him in a language that, to his surprise, he somehow understood, as if the very act of being in this world had unlocked something within him. She explained that the book was a key, a bridge between worlds, and that he had been chosen to be its keeper. She told him stories of others who had crossed over, explorers and dreamers like himself, each seeking something different, each changed by the experience. She offered him a choice. He could stay in this wondrous world, embrace the adventure, and become a part of its vibrant tapestry. Or he could return to his bookstore, his quiet life, with the knowledge of this world forever imprinted on his soul. Peter considered her words, his gaze sweeping over the breathtaking landscape. He thought of the comfortable familiarity of his bookstore, the scent of old books, the quiet hum of turning pages. But he also thought of the thrill of discovery, the challenge of the unknown, the feeling of being truly alive. He looked at the book in his hand, no longer just a collection of pages, but a gateway to endless possibilities. And he smiled, a genuine, adventurous smile that reached all the way to his eyes. He knew his life would never be quite the same. "I think," he said, his voice filled with newfound confidence, "that I need to buy a bigger teapot."